Hello students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Dr. Zeenath from Department of Pharmaceutics, Faculty of Pharmacy, Jamia Hamdard. Today we are going to talk on module Types of Mucoadhesive Drug Delivery Systems, Part 1 from the paper Novel Drug Delivery System 1. At the end of this module, we should be able to recapitulate what is a mucoadhesive polymer, ideal properties of mucoadhesive polymers. Then we will have an insight into the types of mucoadhesive drug delivery systems precisely based on the route of administrations. Then we would be talking about the oral mucoadhesive drug delivery systems, spending some time on the structure of oral mucosa, sites of application for bioadhesive or mucoadhesive oral systems, then advantages of the bioadhesive systems, its disadvantages, types of delivery including the buccal, sublingual, gingival, then salient features of transmucosal permeability, its mechanism and use of enhancers. Finally, we would spend some time on in vitro and in vivo methods for buccal absorption, and later on the various research highlights. Students, let us try to refresh what is a bioadhesive polymer. A polymer is a substance which is formed by linkages of a large number of small molecules known as monomers. A bioadhesive or a mucoadhesive polymer is a synthetic or natural polymer which binds to a biological substrate such as a mucosal membrane. Such polymers are sometimes also referred to as biological glues because they are incorporated into drugs to enable the drugs to bind to their target tissues. Let us now think about what are the various ideal characteristics of polymers. Polymer and its degradation product should be non-toxic, non-irritant and free from leachable impurities. They should have good spreadability, wetting, swelling, solubility and biodegradability properties. pH should be biocompatible and should possess good viscoelastic properties. They should adhere quickly to the buccal mucosa and should possess sufficient mechanical strength, should possess peel, tensile and shear strength at the bioadhesive range. Polymer must be easily available and its cost should not be high. Should show bioadhesive properties in both dry and liquid state. Should demonstrate local enzyme inhibition and penetration enhancement properties, should demonstrate acceptable shelf life, should have optimum molecular weight, should possess adhesivity active groups or adhesive active groups, should have required spatial conformation, should be sufficiently cross-linked, not to a degree of suppression of the bond forming groups, should not aid in development of secondary infections such as dental caries. In general, cationic and anionic polymers bind more effectively than the neutral polymers. Anionic polymers with sulfate groups bind more effectively than those with the carboxylic groups. Polyanions are better than polycations in terms of binding potential and toxicity. Water-insoluble polymers give greater flexibility in dosage form design compared to rapidly or slowly dissolving water-soluble polymers, and degree of binding is proportional to the charge density on the polymer. Dear students, the table in front of you primarily just puts forward the various types of polymers based on their resources. We have the synthetic polymers, which are exemplified by hydroxypropyl cellulose, methyl cellulose, polyvinyl alcohol and dextran, etc. Similarly, the natural polymers can be exemplified by commonly available gums like the xanthan, guar, gelatin is another example. Then we can have chitosan, alginic acid, polylysine, polybrine, etc. One of the major learning objectives of today's presentation is to get an insight into the various types of drug delivery systems which are based on the concept of mucoadhesion. Based on their route of administration, there are many types of drug delivery systems which can be envisaged. We have the first one, which probably is limited to the oral cavity, and these primarily could either result in a buccal drug delivery, it can be exploited to get sublingual drug delivery, and then also for gingival drug delivery. Then we also have the next type, which is the gastrointestinal delivery system, where the concept of mucoadhesion can enhance the retention of the dosage form. Similarly, the concept of mucoadhesion can be very well exploited for obtaining vaginal delivery, rectal delivery, nasal delivery, or ocular delivery. Before we get into the details of the buccal drug delivery systems, it is important for us to understand the oral cavity. Not to mention, the oral cavity or the mouth consists of the hard and the soft palates, the tongue, buccal mucosa, gingiva and uvula. You can very well see the diagram on your screen, which primarily highlights all these parts. We also understand that the oral cavity is the entrance of the digestive system. It plays many important functions, which include chewing, speaking and tasting. And the oral cavity is lined by thick, dense and multi-layered mucous membrane of a highly vascularized nature. It helps in the penetration of the drug into the membrane, which passes through the net of capillaries and arteries and finally reaches the systemic circulation. This is of high relevance when we are wanting to deliver a drug transmucosally. On your screen in front of you is given the cross-section of the buccal mucosa. The buccal epithelium is similar to stratified squamous epithelia found in rest of the body and is about 40 to 50 cell layers thick. The lining epithelium of buccal mucosa is the non-keratinized stratified squamous epithelium richly supplied with blood. Lipid analysis of buccal tissues shows the presence of phospholipids to the quantity of 76.3%, glucosphingolipid to the tune of 23%, and ceramide NS about 0.72%. It is well understood that the various appendages, including the teeth, salivary gland ducts, and occasionally sebaceous glands, are situated in or below the lamina propria. The oral cavity offers itself to three different drug delivery approaches, namely buccal, sublingual, and local delivery to mouth. Each of these sites further differs in structure, composition, and degree of permeability, and also in their ability to retain the delivery system for a specified duration of time. If we try to define the functional zones of the oral mucosa, we can primarily have three of them. The first one is referred to as the masticatory mucosa, which usually covers the gingiva, the hard palate regions, and is the keratinized epithelium. The second we have is the mucus secreting region. This consists of the soft palate, floor of mouth, underside of the tongue, labial and buccal mucosa, and primarily this region has non-keratinized mucosa. Then we have the third category of the functional zone of oral mucosa, which is considered to be as the specialized mucosa. This consists of the lip border and dorsal surface of tongue with highly selective keratinization. As I just mentioned, we have different types of divisions of the oral mucosa. Amongst them, the first one is referred to as the buccal mucosa, which actually refers to the inner lining of the lips and cheeks. It is well understood that the buccal mucosa is about 40 to 50 cells thick, and the epithelial cells become flattered as they move from the basal layers to the superficial layers. To note a point, the buccal mucosa is actually less preferable compared to the other oral drug delivery systems because of the variation and short transit time. The bioadhesive polymers can cause the retention of a dosage form by spreading it over the absorption site. The next category of the mucosa, which is prevalent in the oral cavity, is referred to as the sublingual mucosa. It has got certain very important salient features, like it is relatively permeable, it is amenable to rapid absorption, it is usually a convenient, accessible and a generally well accepted mode of administration. The sublingual route is by far the most widely studied of these routes. Not to mention, it is non-keratinized, has a thickness of 100 to 200 micrometers and is usually 8 to 12 cell layered. It lacks an expanse of smooth muscle and has a relatively immobile mucosa. It also shows the presence of high vascularization, which is responsible for fast onset of action. The typical examples of the drug dosage forms which are suited for this type of mucosal delivery is the glyceryl trinitrate system, which is usually used as an aerosol spray or in the form of a tablet and comes in the brand name of Seusadrin or Nitroga. The third and the last portion is referred to as the gingival mucosa. As apparent, it is the hardest muscle of the body and has got a great advantage to retain the dosage form for a quite long duration. This is very suitable for delivering drugs which are primarily targeted for treatment of any type of orodental or periodontal infections. Students, one point which is important to be understood is that it is the saliva which makes the bioadhesive drug delivery system adhere to the wall of the buccal mucosa. Let us talk about the composition and its function. Saliva primarily constitutes of glycoproteins, lipids, water and electrolytes. The water content is approximately 95%. The glycoproteins and lipids constitute between 0.5 to 5% and about 0.5 to 1% is composed of mineral salts and approximately 1% of free proteins. Saliva is secreted by the salivary glands in the oral cavity. It is often seen as a very viscous, a sticky or a mucus gel. It primarily mediates the interaction between the epithelial cells, its environment via a process which is called as lubrication, maintaining the water balance and binding the particles, bacteria and viruses. It may also play a role in the immune response. The other functions include maintenance of mucosal integrity, buffering, remineralization, digestion, and antibiosis. Let us now think about and talk about a secretion of saliva. Can you imagine that around 1.5 liters of saliva is secreted daily? The chief secretions are by parotid, submaxillary, sublingual glands. The minor salivary glands are situated in the buccal and the palatal region. The presence of saliva is more important for number one, the drug dissolution, which helps in both local and systemic delivery of the drug, and number two, the drug permeation. If the saliva was not there, then the drug would not have moved across the mucous membrane for the systemic delivery. I hope we are very clear about the fact that how secretion of saliva happens. The oral mucosal membrane is also highly vascularized. The vasculature in the oral system makes this cavity amenable for drug delivery, which is meant for a systemic action. It was for the very first time, year 1984, that Stebelin and Mayer described the vascular system of the oral cavity. They emphasized that the mucous membrane of the buccal cavity is highly vascular and also highlighted that the blood supply to the mouth is through the external carotid artery. Precisely, the cheek and the hard palate receive their vascularization or blood from the maxillary artery, while the tongue, gingiva and the mouth floor are connected with the lingual artery, and the facial artery supplies blood to the lips and the soft palate. As the mucosa is different in nature and structure, the blood flow in the various regions of the oral mucosa is also different. The table on the screen precisely tells you the different types of blood rate in the different types of tissues in the oral cavity. Of course, the minimum amount of blood flow is from the hardest part, that is palatal region. If we try to put it in a nutshell, that what are the various functions of the oral mucosa, we can primarily conclude that the function of the buccal epithelium is the protection of the underlying tissue. In non-keratinized regions, lipid-based permeability barriers in the outer epithelial layers protect the underlying tissues against fluid loss and entry of potentially harmful environmental agents such as antigens, carcinogens, microbial toxins, and enzymes from foods and beverages. Because of the different structure of the different regions of the mucosa, it of course has got a different level of permeability. The permeability of the oral cavity is intermediate between the epidermis and the intestinal mucosa. In the year way back in 1976, Gallet et al. Estimated the permeability of the oral mucosa and concluded the least permeable is the palatal region, followed by the buccal region, and the most permeable is the sublingual region. Later on, in the year 1985, Pimlott and Eddy measured the site-dependent absorption of isosorbide dinitrate tablets and found out variability in the permeability of the oral mucosa. Also, it must be noted that the palatal site is keratinized while the sublingual has got a very thinner epidermis and is usually immersed in saliva. Students, we just appreciated the various regional differences in the mucosal permeability. Whenever we talk of a transmucosal permeability, there has to be certain mechanisms. The drug traverses through the mechanism of passive diffusion. Then secondly, it traverses through the intercellular spaces and the cytoplasm, and these are usually the permeability barriers. And finally, the drug can take the path through the cell membrane. There must be and there are certain factors which are considered in the transmucosal permeability. The first factor is the lipophilicity of the drug, the second is the salivary secretion, the third one is the pH of the saliva, and it has been found that a pH of around 6 favors absorption. Then finally, we need to understand the binding to the oral mucosa and also what is the thickness of the oral epithelium. It is now well appreciated that one of the reasons for using the buccal drug delivery is to obtain a systemic delivery of certain drugs. Of course, for them, it is to be understood that how the pathways are transgressed by some drug delivery in order to get a systemic absorption. Scientists have highlighted that these routes could be of two types, namely paracellular route and the transcellular route. The diagram on the screen shows the mucosal side or the donor side of the mucous membrane as well as the serosal side. When it talks of the paracellular route, we must understand that it is the primary route for the hydrophilic drug delivery, and as shown in the figure, it usually negotiates the intercellular spaces and it is definitely a preferred route. However, one of the major disadvantages is the limited surface area. The second mechanism by which the systemic absorption happens is referred to as the transcellular route. It is one of the major choices if the drug is lipophilic in nature. The lipophilic drugs passes through the lipid-rich plasma membranes of the mucous membrane and negotiates its path from the mucosal side to the serosal side. The diagram below in the screen in front of you students primarily is focusing on the journey which is taken by any drug which is to be delivered through the buccal route. Let us take an example of any solid drug which could be a bioadhesive powder form, a multi-unit form or a tablet form. Once it is adhered to the mucous membrane, of course, because of the presence of the large quantities of saliva, the drug will get dissolved in the buccal fluids. A major disadvantage comes here, wherein some of the drug might get lost while we go in for a process of swallowing. The drug, which is completely dissolved in the buccal fluids, then moves on to the buccal membrane site. And then the drug usually gets diffused into the lymphatic circulation, gets mixed with the blood, and finally reaches the system. Of course, we have understood that how the drug will leave the drug delivery system and negotiate its pathway through the mucosal membrane. But before that, it has to adhere to the oral mucosa. So let us try to answer the question that how will the drug delivery system adhere to the oral mucosa? It has been well established that bioadhesion or mucoadhesive is completely dependent upon the selected polymer. The polymer is primarily could be of any sources, whether synthetic or natural, and it has got some very significant and unique kind of mucoadhesive properties. When converted into a drug delivery system, for example, something like a tablet, the first stage involves an intimate contact between this bioadhesive tablet and the buccal membrane. And later on, while the contact has been properly made, the second stage will come into play, which primarily revolves around the penetration of the mucoadhesive into the tissue. At the physiological pH, the mucous network may carry negative charge because of the presence of sialic acid and sulfate residue, and this high charge density due to the negative charges contributes significantly to the bioadhesion. We might remember the electronic theory of mucoadhesion to understand the concept better. We just understood that how does the buccoadhesive drug delivery system adhere to the mucous membrane of the oral cavity. What will happen after this adherence has come into play? Let us try to understand it through the diagram which is in front of your screens. We have an example of a tri-layer or a triple layer tablet or disc type of bioadhesive systems, which primarily composes of three different layers, namely the one which is the impermeable membrane, which will allow only the unidirectional flow of the drug. The middle layer is a mixture of the drug and the polymer, while the last or the innermost layer is comprised of the mucoadhesive polymer. Once it is attached to the mucosal membrane, the mucoadhesive polymer layer will get in touch with the saliva, and subsequent to that, it would be swollen. Later on, the consolidation of the system would happen, and once this consolidation has happened, the interpenetration of the saliva and the mucosal polymers or the mucous polymers, mucoadhesive polymers would come into play. This would then allow the dissolution of the drug, and this drug is then moved towards or diffused towards the inner mucosal membrane. This is the best way to bypass the first pass metabolism. From here, the drug directly enters into the jugular vein, and from the internal jugular vein, it finally reaches to the systemic circulation. Hence, circumventing and overcoming the various problems associated with drugs which are not suitably given by any other route. The picture in front of you probably reiterates the steps which we had just discussed. You can see the condition of the buccoadhesive tablet when it has just been applied. Primarily, what is the change what is happening after 2 hours of application and subsequently after 4 and 6 hours. We just referred to the 2 steps of mucoadhesion, that is the intimate contact and later on the interpenetration. In order to happen the later step, we have something which we refer to as the method of hydration. Students, I think we are very sure of the fact that the hydration is an important step whenever we are talking of any type of mucoadhesive drug delivery system. We can primarily formulate different types of bioadhesive systems, namely solid, the next physical form, which could be semi-solid or in the liquid form as well. Each one of them needs to be hydrated before it can start giving out or releasing out the drug. For solid formulations like tablets, powders, wafers, lozenges, patches, films, etc., the method of hydration primarily is such that the dry formulations will achieve a bioaddition via dehydration of local mucosal surface. It simply means that the saliva which is present in the mouth or the oral cavity would be taken up by the formulation, and later on it would swell and subsequently go in for the release of the drug. The semi-solid dosage forms, primarily exemplified by various mucoadhesive gels, are usually partially hydrated while being formulated. And of course, the liquid ones, which could be your solutions with or without fragrances, are prehydrated and contains appreciable aqueous phase. One of the major questions which is to be answered whenever we talk of different formulations, whatever type, is that what are the suitable drugs for such a system? Let us try to understand this question in terms of the buccal-adhesive drug delivery systems. In this case, the drug should be stable at the buccal pH, otherwise it would not be helpful. Therefore, the drug should be highly stable between the pH of 6.4 and 7.2. The drug should be then odorless and tasteless, because otherwise it would not be a very suitable candidate. It should be having a molecular weight between 200 to 500 Daltons, and the drugs could either be hydrophilic or lipophilic in nature. Drugs which are absorbed only by passive diffusion should be used if the intention is to deliver it for the systemic delivery. Now let us try to understand that what are the various sites of the oral bioadhesive drug delivery systems. The first site is the sublingual delivery. It refers to the delivery of the drug via the sublingual mucosa, that is, the lining of the ventral surface of the tongue and the floor of the mouth. The second one is the buccal delivery. It refers to the delivery of the drug via the buccal mucosa. If we just take this as a cheek, this is the inner part of the cheek, and this is the site which is for the buccal delivery. Third one rather, is your local delivery. This is primarily a site for the treatment of conditions of the oral cavity, principally ulcers, fungal conditions, and periodontal diseases. These sites differ from each other in terms of anatomy, permeability, and their ability to retain a delivery system. One of the major uses of the buccal drug delivery is for the treatment of the afflictions of oral cavity. Of course, it is understood that when we treat the afflictions of oral cavity, which could be orodental or periodontal in nature, the afflictions usually comprise of various types of diseases which are limiting their presence in the oral cavity per se. The basic treatment would require that the drug is delivered locally and is available for the interaction with the disease site, and finally resulting in the healthy mucosa. The commonest of the afflictions which require such type of deliveries are the mouth ulcers, which are painful round or oval sores which are most often present on the inside of the cheeks or the lips. The majority of the patients suffer from minor aphthous ulcers, and these ulcers, which are acronymed as MAU, are roundish, shallow, grey-white in color, and very painful. Then we have another very common afflictions of the oral cavity, and it is known as oral thrush or oral candidiasis. It is understood that the causative organism is Candida albicans. It causes cracks in the corners of the mouth and the lips, tongue, a palate, and inside of the cheeks, and can have crusty whitish or yellowish patches. A systemic delivery is not required in such cases. What comes handy is a buccal drug delivery, which could be adhered onto these sites and which can continuously release the drug in order to curtail down or circumvent the fungal infection. Similarly, we have another very common oral cavity problem, and that is referred to as gingivitis. Gingivitis, as the name suggests, is inflammation of the gums. It is caused by the plaque that coats the teeth along the gum line. The bacteria which gets accumulated into this area irritates the gum, makes them red, swollen and tender, and if the plaque is not removed, it progresses and causes the gums to recede and affects the ligaments and bones and supporting teeth. If gingivitis is not curtailed or overcome in its early stages, it usually leads to some devastating teeth problems, and one of them is referred to as periodontitis. It is an inflammation of the soft tissues around the teeth and is characterized by a gradual loss of attachment of the periodontal ligament to the gingiva and bone along with the loss of the supporting bone. It is usually accompanied by gingivitis. All these afflictions can be very well contained by use of locally acting buccoadhesive drug delivery systems. Till now, we have very well understood the various aspects of the drug delivery, which is primarily based on the mucoadhesion. In order to have the best therapeutic outcome, the chosen buccoadhesive drug delivery system should have certain attributes. These attributes or properties could be summed up as: number one, an ideal buccal adhesive system must be able to adhere to the site of attachment for a few hours. It should be able to release the drug in a controlled fashion. It should provide drug release in a unidirectional way towards the mucosa. It should facilitate the rate and extent of drug absorption. If it is a systemic type of drug delivery, it should definitely not cause any irritation or inconvenience to the patient, and of course, it is much preferred that it should not interfere with the normal functions such as talking, drinking, etc. There are certain distinct advantages of buccoadhesive drug delivery. The buccal cavity per se is relatively less permeable than the sublingual mucosa. Thus, it is more suitable for sustained release of drug. It is understood that if we want the drug action for a longer duration of time, then we would definitely prefer buccal mucosa as compared to the sublingual mucosa. Secondly, the presence of smooth muscle and relatively immobile mucosa results in a prolonged retention. It has got larger surface area as compared to the sublingual region. Of course, it avoids hepatic first pass metabolism. It can help in reduction in dose related side effects due to the reduction in dose. And of course, it has got much ease of use and has got low variability. Likewise, it will also have certain limitations. The limitations include: number one, it is not suitable for administration of drugs with large dose. There could be a rapid washout of drugs because of high salivation, which could be different in different persons. It has got a low flux, which results in low drug bioavailability. Sometimes eating and drinking may be restricted. There are huge chances that the patient might swallow the drug as well as the tablet. It is not suitable for drugs which are unstable at the buccal pH. Drugs which irritate the mucosa or have a bitter or unpleasant taste or an obnoxious odor cannot be used through this route, and it definitely has got small surface area which is available for absorption. Students, we just talked about the various limitations and its advantages of the mucoadhesive drug delivery systems. Let us just try to understand manufacturing wise or formulation wise how we can classify them. There could be three ways of basically classifying them. The first one is your type 1, type 2 and type 3. When we talk of the type 1, this is the simplest of the system where you are having a multi-directional release and from a single layer dosage form. But it does suffer from a disadvantage, and that disadvantage is a significant loss of drug due to the process of swallowing. The type 2 drug delivery systems, which probably consists of a drug-loaded bioadhesive layer superimposed by an impermeable backing layer on the top, forming a double layer device like this. What happens is this: the layer which is impermeable does not allow the drug to be lost, and finally there is a prevention of the loss of drug from the upper surface into the oral cavity. This way, it overcomes the process of the type 1 disadvantage. The type 3 drug delivery system, it is having a drug loaded layer covered from all sides. Let us just try to understand. If this is the dosage form, all the other sides are covered except the one in which the drug is from which the drug is to be released. Therefore, it helps in a unidirectional drug release, thus preventing or minimizing the drug loss. After getting to know that what type of formulation designs are available for making different types of bioadhesive systems, let us try to understand that which one of them are most suitable for local delivery in the oral cavity. The first one amongst them are the buccal tablets, which are commonly prepared as small, flat, oval with a diameter approximating 5 to 8 mm. These are manufactured for extended retention time period without greatly hampering the normal activities of drinking, speaking, or eating. The application sites are varied. It could be either palate, gingiva, or cheek mucosa. The tablets could be applied alternatively on different sites. These are prepared by direct compression or by wet granulation technique with sufficient pressure in order to allow slow dissolution or erosion. An advancement onto these were probably the use of microspheres, which were first advocated by Guinchedi et al. In 2002, wherein they suggested that the microspheres comprising of antibiotic or any types of drugs could be compressed into tablets for prolonged release. Rudnick et al. In the year 2000 also reported the use of tablets which could melt at body temperature. The formulation design of various buccal tablets is usually very similar to the common tablets which are ingested orally. The evaluation parameters are also quite similar. The evaluation tests which are used for assessing the mucoadhesive tablets or buccoadhesive tablets include: number one, weight variation tests, friability, hardness. Then the content uniformity is also to be estimated. We also have to go in for the in vitro release study of these tablets. Additionally, we need to go in for the swelling index studies, the water sorption studies, and the mucoadhesive strength studies. Besides the buccal tablets, we have another category of formulations which are primarily very filmy, and hence the name buccal patches or buccal films. These are very similar to the transdermal patches and could be prepared by either a solvent casting or a direct milling method. The bigger films can then be cut or punched into appropriate sizes. The figure in front of you primarily helps us understand that how a buccal patch or a film can be adhered onto the buccal mucosa, wherein it will remain for a stipulated period of time and release the drug contents into the milieu of the saliva. Buccal gels and ointments are the next category of the buccoadhesive drug delivery systems. As evident from its name, they are usually classified as semi-solid dosage forms. These are usually very commonly used for problems like the aphthous or the candidiasis problem. The gel forming polymers which are used for such formulations are referred to as hydrocolloids, and these are often loaded with antibacterial drugs which are then made into formulations which can give extended release within the mouth. One of the major advancements in the buccoadhesive drug delivery systems were the designing of microspheres or microparticulate drug delivery systems. The premise of such system remained the same, that they were made using certain mucoadhesive polymers, but of course they were multi-unit and they primarily had more amount of drugs which could be encapsulated. If we try to define the microspheres and microcapsules, these can be pharmaceutically defined and are commonly clubbed together, usually having a size range of 1 to 1000 micrometers. The former, that is the microspheres, are entirely made up of polymer matrices having entrapped drug, whereas the latter, referred to as the microcapsules, have an outer coating over it with a core of the drug. Microspheres differ from microcapsules in a manner that they do not have a well-defined membrane surrounding a core of an active agent. Instead, they contain the drug dispersed throughout the polymer matrix. Drug release from microspheres is controlled by dissolution and or diffusion of the drug through the microsphere matrix. Both biodegradable as well as non-biodegradable materials have been investigated for the preparations of microspheres. These materials include the polymers of natural origin like albumin, gelatin, starch, collagen, carrageenan, etc., and also certain modified natural substances. Synthetic polymers, for example, methyl methacrylate, acrolein, lactide, glycolide and their copolymers, ethylene vinyl acetate copolymers, polyanhydrides, etc., have also been used for the preparations of microspheres. Chitosan microspheres, owing to their added advantage of mucoadhesion and antibacterial activity, have recently garnered a lot of scientific support for appropriately delivering drugs to specific anatomical sites, and buccal cavity is one of such sites. Microspheres in general have the potential to be used for targeted and controlled release drug delivery, but coupling of mucoadhesive properties to microspheres has additional advantages. The additional attribute of mucoadhesion make the microspheres amenable for adherence to any mucosal tissue, including those found in eye, buccal, vagina, nasal cavity, urinary and GI tract, thus offering the possibilities of localized as well as systemic controlled release of drugs. The various advantages offered by these systems include: they offer efficient absorption and enhanced bioavailability of the drug due to high surface to volume ratio. They are able to make much more intimate contact with the mucosal membrane. Specific targeting of the drug to the absorption site achieved by anchoring plant lectins, bacterial adhesives, and antibodies on the surface of the microspheres can be further useful. Protection of the encapsulated drug from enzymatic or pH-dependent degradation could be formulated for retention onto an anatomical site like a periodontal pocket. Protection of the drug against the environment is suitably done. It can be protected from moisture, light, heat and or oxidation. They can be very suitably used for separation of incompatible materials and sometimes the drugs or the incompatible excipients as well. Definitely they have got better flow properties. They can easily be compressed into disc types, and least but not last, they are very suitable for giving sustained or controlled release medication. They are, however, marred with certain limitations. And the most obvious limitations in the use of microspheres as controlled drug delivery systems are: number one, there could be a chance of poor biological acceptability of the particles. The amount of the drug that can be incorporated into the microspheres is limited, and sometimes they have got very poorly defined release characteristics. Lastly, the most important and probably the most severe limitation is the difficulty in providing well-defined drug release for a long period of time because of biodegradation and interaction with tissue components in which they are delivered. On your screen is a table which is a sum total of information on the various commercially available bioadhesive or buccoadhesive drug delivery systems. The first column highlights the commercial names, which could be exemplified by something like the Buccastem, Corlan pellets, Orabase, and Loramic. Subsequently, the polymer which has been able to give the mucoadhesion has also been named. The subsequent column highlights the name of the drugs which are shown, then followed by the company which is manufacturing them and the type of the dosage form. You could appreciate from the table that the type of the dosage forms could either be solid like tablets, or it could be semi-solid like gels, pastes, or sometimes it could be a liquid formulation. The screen in front of you primarily just gives the real pictures of the various marketed buccoadhesive drug delivery system. Availability of these commercially viable systems also gives us a support that this design of the dosage form is highly applicable to different types of drugs and has got a high level of commercial viability. Subsequent to what we have learned about the buccoadhesive drug delivery systems, we would now try to understand the little concepts about the sublingual drug delivery. This is one of the transmucosal type of drug delivery systems, which is primarily focused on the delivery of the drug through the oral cavity but into the blood system in order to get a systemic response. Sublingual dosage forms are one of the oldest in this genre, and they have got very specific advantages. The first and the foremost advantage is that they have a relatively rapid onset of action. Formulation can then be removed if therapy is required to be discontinued. This is again a very important advantage. It surpasses the hepatic metabolism and the drug is protected from the degradation due to the pH and the digestive enzymes of the GIT. And of course, it gives an improved patient compliance. Furthermore, the convenience of administration as compared to injections or oral medications is evident. Then, the contact surface of the oral cavity contributes to the rapid and extensive drug absorption, and due to the rapid onset of action, it is widely used in emergency conditions like asthma and angina. Then, the fast dissolution or disintegration in the oral cavity without the need for water at chewing is again a very important advantage. Of course, any dosage form will also have certain disadvantages, and so also the sublingual mucoadhesives. They are usually unsuitable for prolonged administration due to the interference because of eating, drinking, and talking. It cannot be used when a patient is uncooperative or unconscious, and it is definitely not suited for sustained drug delivery. It also presents a smaller surface area as compared to buccal mucosa. That could be a limitation, and the patient should not smoke while taking a sublingual medication as it results in vasoconstriction, thus decreasing the absorption of the medication. The various types of sublingual dosage forms which are available are sublingual tablets, fast disintegrating sublingual tablets, bioadhesive sublingual tablets, thin film drug delivery, lipid matrix sublingual tablet, sublingual immunotherapeutic systems, and sublingual vitamin tablets. Amongst them, the one which is of interest to us is the one which uses the concept of mucoadhesion or bioadhesion. The sublingual dosage forms, whether normal or the mucoadhesive kind, usually has to rely on the concept of increased permeability. sometimes there is a requirement that we need something which is called as your permeability enhancers. These substances are usually added to pharmaceutical formulations in order to increase the membrane permeation rate or absorption rate of the co-administered drug. It is well reported that use of such ingredients can definitely help in getting a better bioavailability of the target drug. There could be a variety of membrane permeation enhancers, and which are categorized as number 1, bile salts and their steroidal detergents, including sodium glycolate, sodium taurocholate, and saponins, etc. The other category of permeability enhancers includes surfactants, which could be either non-ionic, cationic, and anionic. The non-ionic could be exemplified by polysorbate 80, sucrose, ester, etc., whereas cetyl trimethyl ammonium bromide is a typical example of cationic surfactants, whereas sodium lauryl sulfate and different mixtures of fatty acids are primarily the anionic kind. We can have other enhancers like azone, salicylates, chelating agents, and sulfoxides to act and improve the permeability of the drug. The table in front of you primarily highlights the role of an enhancer used in different types of formulations. For a drug like insulin, an enhancer glycocholate was used, and it primarily focused on that the absorption was only happening in presence of the enhancer glycocholate. Insulin, being a big molecule, was not able to penetrate the buccal mucosa, and therefore a requirement of permeability enhancer was there. Similarly, when calcitonin was formulated along with saponins, bile salts, fatty acids, and sodium lauryl sulfate like enhancers, it actually resulted in increased pharmacological effect. Another typical example, which could be set here, is that of the drug propranolol, wherein methanol lauric acid was used as enhancers, and it resulted in increased permeation of the drug propranolol. We now move on to understanding the various in vitro methods which can be exploited for assessing the buccal absorption. One of the typical methods is using the animal mucosal membrane. For such an experiment, animals are sacrificed immediately before the start of the experiment. The buccal mucosa with underlying connective tissue is surgically removed from the oral cavity. The connective tissue is then carefully removed and the buccal mucosal membrane is isolated. Subsequent to this, the membranes are then placed and stored in ice-cold buffers. The usually preferred buffer is the Krebs buffer until mounted between our diffusion cells side by side for its in vitro permeation experiments. The diagram on your screen precisely helps you to understand the type of the device which is used for this experiment. An important point to be noted here is that the dissected tissue should be well preserved. Otherwise, it will directly affect the results and conclusion of the studies. And often, the poor storage of the tissue might not be able to give you the exact results. The ultimate success of any drug delivery system is actually reflected when it is able to perform well in the in vivo conditions. In order to simulate the exact behavior of the formulations, there should be certain in vivo methods to assess its performance. For buccal absorption, Beckett and Triggs first proposed in vivo methods which were probably based on assessing the kinetics of the drug absorption. The methodology particularly involved the swirling of a 25 ml sample of the test solution for up to 15 minutes by human volunteers, followed by the expulsion of the solution. The amount of the drug remaining in the expelled volume is then determined in order to assess the amount of the drug absorbed. The other in vivo methods include those which were carried out using a small perfusion chamber attached to the upper lip of an anesthetized dog. The perfusion chamber is attached to the tissue. The drug solution is circulated through the device for a predetermined period of time. The sample fractions are then collected from the perfusion chamber to determine the amount of drug remaining in the chamber, and blood samples are drawn after 0 and 30 minutes to determine the amount of drug absorbed across the mucosa. The in vivo methods involves the use of animals like dog, cat, rabbit, hamster to determine the oral mucosal absorption characteristics of the target drugs. Students, at the end of the deliberations, let us try to summarize whatever we have learned in this module. In conclusion, what we can say is, the mucoadhesive drug delivery offers several advantages for controlled drug delivery, and the major component for its overall success is the correct choice of mucoadhesive polymers. If we are not able to have the right combination of mucoadhesive polymers, perhaps we will not be able to exploit the system properly. Then what we can conclude further is the mucoadhesive drug delivery systems are amenable to the variety and different routes of administrations. Amongst them, the primary can be the one which we refer to as the buccal route. This route is again very consistently and very nicely exploited for both systemic as well as local delivery of drugs. The delivery could either be buccal, gingival or sublingual as per the requirement of the drug and its usage. The rich vasculature and favorable expanse of the mucosal membrane makes this route suited for longer retention of devices along with sustained drug delivery. Permeability of the membrane could be tailored by using safe and effective permeation enhancers, which precisely is the biggest challenge. More so because the route suitability for delivery of bigger drug molecule is highly dependent upon the correct choice of enhancers. If we don't have a good choice of enhancers, the permeability across the mucous membrane would be curtailed, and that would be a limitation for such a system. Such drug delivery systems are effective for drugs which are susceptible to first pass metabolism and could be delivered through a non-invasive mode of administration. In years to come, it is expected to be effectively used for drugs of protein origin. In conclusion, what we can say is that the commercial success of the earlier buccoadhesive systems like tablets, films, gels, microparticles give a window of optimism towards this further exploration, albeit using a better and a newer experimental tools for reliable dosage form designs. In conclusions, a concerted research effort in the area is required to identify suitable drug candidates and excipients and then harness their potential to produce a patient-compliant, non-invasive drug delivery system with reduced side effects, reduced frequency and high efficacy.